started with playing a joke on Barry Melton, player for Country Joe and the Fish.
It's the amp I always ask for.
Someone said, hey, you ought to check out Boogie, they're just up the road.
It's a necessity sound amplifier because it's a very beautiful sound, no matter who's playing.
You know, amplifiers that he's made have become a part of our musical culture.
So looking back, the impact on music was pretty huge of the high-gain 112 compact amplifier. I mean, almost everybody was using, from the studio guys, Larry Carlin, Carlos Rio, Jay Graydon, all those guys. All those records are being laid down on touring bands all over the place. Even George Harrison, Robin Ford, the Stones I mentioned. Gosh knows how many people. I mean, it was very influential, more than I ever could have imagined.
The Boogie was a revolutionized amp. You know, there was nothing like it before. It had its own characteristic and sweetness about it that we all loved. You know, all of us that were playing in that period of time. And the amp evolved. You know, various forms of the sound came out, and I've used the amp on so many occasions, so many different groups, and so many albums, and it just is, you know, one of those amps we always continue to use in one way or another.
I remember at one point seeing my first Boogie and seeing, like, you know, the kind of basket weave front and thinking, wait a second, this is a small amp. It looks much bigger, or I had a vision of it being much bigger in my mind. And I remember plugging into it the first time and like hearing how loud it was and how full it was, and I'm thinking, wow.
Okay, when I was with John Mayall back in the mid-'80s, we did not take amps with us. We would show up at the gig and we had to play through whatever was provided for us that night. And I was in Virginia with the band, and there was this really crappy amp they wanted me to play through, and I was really upset. And the sound guy says, I have this amp by a company called MESA Boogie. I'll bring it in, you can try it. And I said, yeah, bring it in. And I showed up that night at the gig, and it was a full stack, and it was a Mark I. And I didn't know how to set it, and the guy set it, and it just blew my mind.
And I kept trying to perfect it. I mean, that's what I've been doing all along, is trying to answer the needs of players that I hear. So one of them was, how about an effects loop? How about some way to insert your outboard effects in the midst of the signal path? And that's much more difficult than it might first appear. So the 2A had a rudimentary way to do that. The 2B had a better way to do that. The Mark IIc was particularly voiced to sound heavier and more menacing and just more.
Everyone was after, and especially me, was after that ultimate crunch sound. Percussive, tight, and in your face. And there weren't many options back then. You know, you'd have your Marshalls, and if you had the money, you could get them modded and all of that crazy stuff. Or you had a distortion pedal, and that was kind of the way you'd get that crunch. Someone said, hey, you ought to check out Boogie, they're just up the road, you know, local. So went up there and met Randy, met everyone up there, and they plugged me into, Mark IIc Plus, and instantly knew that it was what I was looking for. It was closer than any other thing. I guess the first experiences were, you know, we're just searching for something better, and continued to do that. And you know, I know Randy is certainly that kind of guy. You know, always searching for the next, you know, betterment of what he's done before.
So in the process of this constant refinement leading up at that time to the Mark IIc Plus, we hit our second big milestone in terms of its influence on playing styles and music. So the 2C it became an iconic voice used in a wide range of applications, from Steve Lukather in the studio and on tour with Toto, to our friends and neighbors Metallica, trademark sound there. John Petrucci.
The amplifiers that he's made have become a part of our musical culture, and they're on so many records and have been in the hands of so many great guitar players and on the stages all around the world. Like that is an unbelievable accomplishment. And what I love about the way that they've done things throughout all the years, and I can only speak from my time being with them, is that there's always been this family vibe. It's been this sort of small group of people who have common interests and are this whole pursuit of tone and the excellence that goes into that. It's just like everybody shares that, and the relationships that I've developed with Randy and Doug and Jim and the guys, it's family, it's something that I really, really value in my life. Not only being able to play the amplifiers and to have discovered them, but to have these incredible relationships with all those guys who are all artists in their own right and, just amazing as people.